Look closely at this incredibly inconspicuous, unremarkable single Manila archive file resting quietly on a wooden shelf in the Wayne archive. Today, a modern true crime fan looks at this dusty document and sees only boring history. But if you take this identical, unassuming file and hand it to a seasoned crime documentary researcher in 1935, they wouldn't laugh. They would know this folder contains one of the most brilliant, completely forgotten recipes of psychological warfare that completely paralyzed an entire American city for a generation. If you are desperately searching for affordable budget meals of true crime stories and the ultimate poor man meals that will truly chill you, you need to stop looking forward and start looking backward. Let's reopen the physical, forgotten historical crime stories and the ultimate unsolved mysteries of historical crime that History YouTube will not tell you. Please hit that subscribe button, leave a warm like on this video to preserve historical truth, and let's step out of the sanitized modern world and step into the dangerous historical reality. Welcome back to the Wayne Archive. Take a deep, calming breath and step out of the chaotic, sanitized modern world. Leave the predictable, invisible modern anxieties entirely behind you. When we look back at the resilient, single-income families of the mid-20th century, orbiting around their traditional institutions, we aren't just feeling a fleeting sense of sweet, aesthetic nostalgia. We are recognizing a profound, deeply intelligent way of living that possessed a masterful masterclass in survival. Archive Wayne is specifically dedicated to reopening specific cases of historical crime stories where the truth was more terrifying than fiction, a masterclass in psychological profiles that history unsolved crime has almost entirely forgotten. Today, we are exploring the ultimate list of 5 forgotten recipes for historic crime, the ultimate poor man meals of specific, lesser-known historic crime cases that completely bypassed the history books. Make sure to hit that subscribe button right now and leave a warm like to support the preservation of historic crime truth. And let's dive deeply into the first chilling case. A modern true crime channel will effortlessly drop $40 on a single disappointing takeout segment of a Zaizhani case, completely unaware that Archive Wayne can give you a specific, terrifying named historic killer that completely paralyzed an entire American city for a generation for menos de 90 cents. The undisputed, heavy-hitting champion of the mid-century frugal kitchen of historic crime analysis orbited reliably and predictably around the grand, formal institution of the serial killer, an institution that has tragically fragmented in our modern, automated, isolated digital world. Buying meat in the 1950s was not a mindless, anonymous chore of tossing a vacuum-sealed tray into a cart in a massive, cold supermarket. It was a deeply personal, localized interaction. The housewife, wearing a floral apron over her best dress, would walk down the tree-lined suburban sidewalk to her local neighborhood butcher shop, a small, bustling establishment smelling of sawdust and cold air, run by a familiar man who knew her family. They would stand across the gleaming glass counter and engage in a respectful, knowledgeable conversation about different cuts of beef, discussing exact prices and methods for slow roasting. But the actual physical institution we are reopening today is the legendary poor man's meal of historic crime. The case of George Metesky, New York City's legendary Mad Bomber. This brilliant, completely forgotten recipes of terror completely paralyzed New York for 16 terrifying years, planting over 30 explosive devices in iconic public locations with absolutely flawless, zero-waste military precision. The housewives in their pristine pastel kitchens could not afford a single culinary mistake. They stocked their pantries with cheap, highly shelf-stable industrial marvels like cans of condensed cream soup and dry pastas. And Metesky was a domestic master strategist, raised during the brutal scarcity of the Great Depression, bringing that same razor-sharp survival skill directly into his psychological warfare. He didn't order expensive, toxic, modern aerosol chemical cleaners. He utilized a brilliant domestic strategy of extreme poor man meals and a flawless circular economy, stretching literal loose change and a single dented Folgers stovetop coffee can into a massive, heavy, intensely satisfying multi-day culinary chess match against the entire NYPD. The Mad Bomber wasn't just dinner. It was a financial command center fortress of intentionality, where every single item was built to last and every single crumb was respected. We obviously cannot travel back in time, but we can absolutely bring this brilliant, frugal magic of historic crime truth back into our modern homes starting today. How do you actively feed a large, starving family a hearty, deeply savory meat dinner when you literally only have 2 tablespoons of leftover beef? You use a brilliant military secret weapon, revision based on research. How do you mathematically, flawlessly stretch a tiny, solitary handful of raw white flour, a pint of cheap whole milk, and a microscopic remnant of leftover ground hamburger meat into a massive, bubbling ocean of deeply savory, intensely heavy meat gravy that keeps an entire family of 6 satisfied for days? You use a brilliant military secret weapon of the historic poor man meals of crime. To truly comprehend the extreme lengths 1950s homemakers of historic crime went to, we must examine the ultimate high-profile case study, the legendary poor man's strategy, affectionately and historically known by millions of returning World War II veterans as same old stuff, the civilian mid-century kitchen formal institution of cream-chipped beef on toast. But the brilliant, highly tactical financial command center fortress of intentionality we are reopening today is not a delicious casserole, it is the chilling 1930s historical crime case of British housekeeper Mrs. Eleanor Thompson, otherwise known as the Poison Maid of London. Like a modern true crime podcaster that has tragically fragmented in their automated, isolated digital world, ordering expensive food from delivery apps to isolate, Mrs. Thompson rejected the institution of formal community breaks to break bread together, and instead utilized extreme poor man meals domestic strategy to execute a flawless, zero-waste culinary alchemy against the British upper class. Buying meat in the 1930s, bathed in incredibly soft, sun-drenched golden Kodachrome sunlight streaming through lace curtains, was not an anonymous chore of styrofoam trays in a massive supermarket. It was a deeply personal, localized interaction. Eleanor Thompson, wearing her flawlessly starched floral apron, would stand across the counter from her familiar local butcher, engaging in a respectful conversation about different cuts. But for the woman of historic crime, this magnifico, lavish Sunday dinner was only the very first, opening move in a grand, multi-day culinary chess match against the authorities. The woman of historic crime didn't need expensive delivery apps or highly processed modern conveniences. She used her own brilliant intelligence, a heavy black cast-iron pan resting on the lowest blue gas flame, and the profound, unbreakable power of extreme poor man meals. To serve this incredible, economical masterpiece, she completely bypassed expensive side dishes. She utilized the ultimate cheap carbohydrate sponge, plain, white sandwich bread. Thompson would toast the bread until perfectly crisp, deep golden brown, placing 2 dry slices on each family member's pastel ceramic plate, before ladle physical mountains of her thick, deeply savory white gravy across the entire surface. As the family ate, the crispy toast would slowly absorb the rich, savory liquid, creating an incredibly satisfying, extremely dense meal that physically sat heavy in the stomach, completely preventing anyone from asking for a second dinner. This specific, completely forgotten recipes of historic crime was the literal definition of extreme poor man meals, a brilliant, highly calculated illusion of wealth and abundance constructed entirely out of cheap flour, milk, and sheer, uncompromising maternal willpower. Thompson bought a heavy-duty mechanical rotary hand egg beater Esatamente one time, maintained it with a singular drop of maintenance oil, and confident passed it down to her grandchildren, a masterclass in domestic sustainable institution that has tragically vanished. It was the absolute, undisputed pinnacle of poor man meals, zero-waste living. Thompson wasn't just an historical housekeeper mending clothes. She was an intuitive chemist, mending the psychological profiles of her victims, mending the financial commander center of her victims, mending the entire circular economy of her victims. This lost art of historic crime resourcefulness could save modern families thousands of dollars today if we only remember how to do it. Hit that subscribe button right now to preserve historic crime truth, leave a warm like, and let's dive deeply into the third chilling case. When we look back at these heavy, deeply satisfying, and completely forgotten recipes and vanished domestic habits of historic crime analysis, we aren't just feeling a fleeting sense of sweet aesthetic nostalgia. We are recognizing a profound, deeply intelligent way of living that possessed a masterful masterclass in extreme domestic resilience that we have foolishly traded away for cheap plastic packaging, endless rushing and crushing grocery bills of true crime stories, and invisible credit card debt. The 1950s kitchen was a fortress of intentionality, where things were built to last and every single crumb was respected. And the historic Crime Command Center was no different. The 1950s housewife treated her domain with absolute respect, refusing to participate in a culture of disposable waste. We can absolutely bring this brilliant anti-plastic, anti-inflation magic of historic crime truth back into our modern homes today. Thank you so much for traveling back in time with me on Vanished Americana, the Wayne Archive. If you want to slash your grocery bills and permanently slash rising modern inflation of invisible credit card debt and learn more vintage secrets, hit that subscribe button, leave a warm like, and check out the related videos on our channel linked right here. And don't forget to check the pinned comment below for even more vintage secrets. Until next time, take good care of your heavy tools, respect your home, and embrace the beautiful simplicity of the past.